Okay. So I'll start over again here. The thing that we did, the thing that we talked about last time around was we went into layer properties and we added a centerline layer, right? And the important thing about that was that we actually had a centerline line type. We went to load, we found the centerline line type, we chose that, and then we selected it up here by hitting OK, and we created that centerline layer. And the other thing we did was we clicked on construction layer and we duplicated that by simply saying new layer, and it duplicated that, and we renamed that one whole construction. So that gave us two construction line layers, one for the main object and one specifically for the holes. Okay, so that was pretty useful. Get out of that. Okay. Really wants me to name that. Yes, okay. And then I don't really want that, so I'm going to get rid of it. Okay. So that is what we did, just as a quick review. I also talked to you about a new snap, this down here, one of these new tools down here on the status toolbar, the ortho mode. So leaving that on is a pretty good idea, and that limits you to drawing vertical and horizontal lines always. And it's very seldom that you're going to draw an angled line. And if you're trying to draw an angled line and it won't let you, just turn that off. But I would just leave that on most of the time. And it's pretty handy. Okay, so let's get started with this project here. And that was number 10. Going to my object layer, and I'm going to go to my rectangle. And let me count these lines here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Looks like it's about 8 squares long. And maybe 2 tall. Let's give that a go here. Turn my grid snap on. And 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 2 tall. Maybe 1.5 tall. And then the triangle. Just going to go to my line command and make this triangle. Find the middle here. There's the middle. Let's say it's probably about that tall, and then just bring it over here. I'm going to turn off my object snap so it doesn't grab the endpoint. So here's an example of when the ortho is causing trouble. So the ortho does not want me to make the angled line for the triangle. So I actually have to click that off, or you can see it's F8. So click that off, and then do that there. But most of the time it works out pretty well. So I'm going to turn it back on. All right, I'm going to trim away the parts I don't need here. I think that is about that. And there is a notch in this triangle, so I'm going to use the hidden layer to show that. And that comes across like this, and I'll just make that go across like that, and I'm going to trim off the ends so that I for sure get them to hit that line perfectly. All right, I think that is all there is to the front view. So now I'm going to go to my construction layer, type XL, enter, and then V, enter, and place all the vertical construction lines. Now, this is an important thing here to note. When the grid is helping you or when it is hurting you. So this endpoint right here and this endpoint right here are not on the grid. Let me zoom in to show you what I'm talking about. So you can see that this point right here and this point right here do not happen to fall on the grid lines. So when you go to draw those vertical construction lines, if you have the grid snap on like I do, you can see it's not going to snap to the right point. It's going to be a little off. You can see both of those are off. So you have to create those, place those with your grid snap off and your object snap on. So this is why it's important to accept that you have to go back and forth between the two and know when one is going to be more useful than the other. So in this case, you definitely want the object snap, which is going to snap to the endpoints or the intersections of these lines. Okay. So that is looking pretty good. I'm going to go back to my object layer and rectangle and start on this top view. I think I'm going to make it that wide, so I'm going to move this. Delete that. Okay. That's it for the main body. And now I'll do the lines for the triangle. I'll do that. I'm also going to use a rectangle to do that. So I'm going to make this triangle stick out the same on both sides. That's important. Get rid of these pieces. I think I can just delete these guys. You know what? I'm going to put those back. And because they go to right here. So let me draw that line first. That'll make that easier. And I'm turning off my grid snap and I'm using my object snap now. And then everything after that goes away. Let's delete those guys. And then delete this, or trim this, I should say. All right. So yeah, that was just a little bit tricky, and that's why angled faces are a little challenging. But when you have the construction lines in place, it makes it much easier. All right, so we got a little more to add to this. Obviously, there is a center line, and there's a line that goes through the center there. But now there's a notch we got to put in place here. And we said the notch goes from this line to this line. So I'm going to put my I'm going to use my grid snap and then trim away from it. I think that's what's going to work out best here. So I'll do my grid snap like this to take advantage of the grid and make sure these things are equal. Now I'm going to trim this stuff to it. So let me zoom in and show you what I'm talking about. Zoom in tight on that. So these construction lines are where it really belongs. Right now I have this rectangle snap to the grid because that was easy to make it a consistent size. But I'm going to turn my grid off and turn my object snap on so that I can grab this line and just bring it in to here and see if I can get it to, it looks like it's not going to be happy about that. So I'll just trim it off. TR, enter, just trim this stuff to that line. Same on this side. And now I can just move this guy over and just click on him and drag him over. It's interesting that he's not grabbing hold of that line. I could delete him and redraw it, or I could actually do the endpoints. I know the endpoints will snap on there. So that was that faster than redrawing it? That's your call. Okay, so that resembles the notch in there, and then this middle part would be trimmed out. So that is the top view with everything except for the holes. There are no hidden features in the top view. So that's done. Now for the right side view, I'm going to make my transfer line. So XL, enter, A, enter, 45, enter. Turn my grid on so I can utilize that and grab hold of it right there. Okay, now I'm going to project the horizontal construction lines, get into the right layer. Here we go. I think that's everything. I'll do the same for the bottom. I think I got them all there. If you don't get them all, you can always add them later. All right, I'm going to trim off some of that transfer line. I don't need any more than that, and then I'll just delete the rest of it. Okay. And now I'm going to bounce these lines down. So XL, enter, V, enter. And this is an example of when, you'd want to put on the object snap and take off the grid snap. So, because you want it to click on these intersecting points, not on the grid. You want to see the little intersection icons light up when you do your clicking. I'm going to point out another fun thing you can do to reduce confusion, and that is to trim these construction lines to the transfer line. The regular trim is just TR enter, which is what I just did. But if you look down here, there are some options. And if you choose cutting edges by simply typing T, you can see it has a capital T down there. If I type T and then enter, it allows you to choose a cutting edge. And I'm going to choose this transfer line. Click on it and then hit enter. And now anything I click trims away to that line. So that creates kind of a neat effect where it really is just reflecting that information down. I can show you that one more time if you'd like to see. So it's TR enter like you would normally do. But instead of just trimming away to the nearest line, if you type TR enter and then T enter you can see the capital T and the cutting edges, you can then select the cutting edge. And once you've selected it, hit the enter button. And now anything you touch will get trimmed to that cutting edge. Kind of cool. I don't use that very often, but this is a pretty good example in which to use it. Okay, getting back to the right side view, I have my object snap on. My grid is off. I'm not going to be using my grid at all to do this right side view, I don't think. So I'm going to go into my object layer, a rectangle, and probably going to look like that. And like this. And I'm just using rectangles for all of this. And like that. Oops. Trim out this piece in the middle, TR enter. And I believe that is all there is to it. So that is the right side view without the holes. Again, no hidden lines without the holes. So if we weren't doing the holes, we would be done. But we are doing the holes, so that is our next step. I'm going to save what I've got so far by hitting Control S. And now I'm going to turn off my construction layer so that I am not going to be confused by it. And I'm going to go, when I do the whole construction lines, I'm going to use my whole construction layer. Before I do that though, I need to actually draw my holes. So I'm going to go to the circle command and turn the grid on, F9, and pick this spot right in the middle here and draw a hole. I've got it at 1 inch radius, and I think that's going to work perfect. And I chose that number because I want it to be the same on this side. So I want to also make it a 1 inch radius. So that way I know they're the same. Okay. Now I'm ready to do my construction lines. So I'm going to go into my whole construction layer and begin the process. I've got my ortho on, that guy, and that's going to help me out here. I'm going to type XL enter, and I'm just going to slide over the circle. And when you do that, the center point lights up, and I can snap up and over and get 2 of those, and do the same on this side. There you go. So now I've got the basic center line construction lines for these holes, and that's always your first step. That gives you something to click on to do the other ones. So let's do the other ones. That would be the sides of the holes. So we're going to type XL enter, and I'm going to go V for vertical, and I'm going to click on these points here. And again, you should have just your object snap on for this so that you're for sure getting these intersection points and not some random point on the grid. And then the horizontal ones. And then we'll do the transfer line ones, which are vertical, of course. And there they are. So now we have all the construction lines that we are going to need to do this. I'm going to turn my grid snap back on, and I'm going to go into my center layer and make the center lines for these holes. So the same on both sides. And I'm extending beyond the object, about 2 of those little squares on my grid. So that looks pretty nice. And then we'll do it in the side views here. Oops. I think I made this a little too long. There we go. Okay, and now for the hidden lines to show their edges, I'll go to my hidden layer. So it's just enter to get out, enter to get back in. So I just hit the enter button twice when I'm doing that. That's that click sound you're hearing. That's it. I believe the drawing is complete. Turn all of my construction lines on. I'll turn them all off so you can see what it looks like with them all off. There they are. And I will turn them all on. Okay. Zoom out just a bit. Wrong way. And make my border. I'm going to trim these away right now. Just get rid of this stuff. Delete all the rest of them. I'm going to take care of those holes as well. TR enter, then T enter to select that cutting edge. And now I can grab those just right there and get rid of the ones. There we go. So that using that cutting edge method creates a pretty cool effect with the construction lines. So again, that's TR enter and then T enter, and then you select the cutting edge, hit the enter button to let it know you're done picking, and then click on anything that you want to trim to it. Okay, so the last bit here is my name. Clicking on the A, going from corner to corner. Type my name. Select all of my name by typing Control A or cursoring over it. Coming up to justification and choosing middle center. And then typing in the size that I want it to be. I'm going with 0.8. Hit the enter button after you type that value. I know it's going to look crazy, but it'll change. And then I'm going to hit check mark, and there you go. I don't think that was middle center, but you can double click on it and select it all, Control A, and then edit again. Look, I missed the middle center. I went to middle right. So I'll click middle center this time. There it is. Give it the check mark. So you can edit your text anytime. You just double click on it like I did there, and it throws you back into the editor, text editor. Just be sure to select all of your text by typing Control A. Okay. Otherwise, it will only edit the new text that you type. That's our finished product, guys.